Hello, Soph, my fellow agony aunt. So we are flying solo. Big responsibility because Mum is on a training. So I'm afraid the people who ask questions are just getting Soph and I's valuable input. So we have a question from a listener. Please, could you suggest how my husband and his daughters can deal with the anguish and pain caused by estrangement from his two other daughters who chose no contact, particularly as there has never been any rational explanation other than their parents divorced? It's very, very hard not knowing why, I imagine, or not having a sort of sense of what happened to cause this estrangement. I imagine that they have their own narrative around it, and you don't sort of talk about really how much, if any, contact you have. So I imagine that one of the things that you can do is reach out to other people in similar situations. I know that there's the Standalone website that has a lot of community, but also a lot of resources. The other thing that I think we've talked about on here when we've talked about estrangement in the past is that letters are quite a good medium to express your wish to be in contact. And I think the way to do it is to sort of make it as a sort of connection building of like, I am here. I would love to hear what you have to say if you ever want to be in touch, but keep it quite low demand. So what are your thoughts?
I would echo the letter suggestion, and that those maybe particularly for your husband more as a kind of maybe more of the responsibility on him on that than the daughters, of kind of maybe just once a year sending a card saying, I'm here, I'd love to be in touch as and when you're ready, not some long letter trying to navigate the actual conversation via letter. And then in a way, I think for all experiences that come under the sort of unresolved umbrella, then it's not a solve, but talking, naming, finding your own narrative is some of the ways that you can make sense of this. Like, what does it mean to you that you're left in the unknown? What is the story you have in your head? And trying to also delineate. I think when you're in a situation where you have very limited agency, you can't make them tell you what's happened. So the only bit that you have any control over is how you relate to this experience and how you support yourself in it. So whether that's talking about it as a family, whether that's each of them having an opportunity to go to therapy, or whether Standalone has forums or groups that people might want to go to.
They do, yeah.
Then I think as a sort of naming and taming, that there is a value, even though it doesn't provide the answer, in finding a way of making sense of this experience for yourself, because that's where you get to regain some sense of agency of how you want to be with this. How do they want to be with this very difficult thing? Because you can't unchoose the difficult thing. The only choice is how you be with it. And that's where the agency lies, really.
Sort of maybe frame it as this is a loss, right? It's a loss of what I am guessing that your husband and his daughters imagined the family relationship to be. It's a loss of them, and I'm sure he loves them very much. I'm sure his daughters love their siblings very much. So it's also a loss of that relationship, even if it's not permanent. So I think sort of framing it also as like it's a legitimate grief to have, to feel whatever it is, the anger, the sadness, all the things that come with loss.
Yes, and I think through the feeling, the way that, Mum says pain is the agent of change. I think when we don't process or allow ourselves to feel the feeling around this, where we've had this sort of loss of control and loss, often what we end up doing is obsessively thinking and ruminating in the space of the other. Like, was it this? Was it that? Did I say this? Was it this moment? Was it that? Maybe are they saying this? Has their mother said this? And all that stuff, though completely understandable that your head is going to go there. Really what that is your mind body's attempt to take control of something which it does not have control of and does not know. And so if you can find ways of circuit breaking that thinking pattern and bringing it back to you, how are you actually feeling? What's the emotional core behind the thinking? Like, is it you're in pain? And so often when we're in pain, we try to think our way out of pain. So we're not conscious that we're doing it, but something hurts. How do I make this better? If I could just understand what was going on, then I could figure it out and we could make it better. And so we sort of need to go back those steps. And actually, if you have the cry about how much you miss them,
or also sort of exercise, like move your body, punch stuff, dance.
Yeah, and try and find ways of disrupting the obsessive rumination that is like it happens for most people around unresolved stuff.
Yes, and I'm so sorry that you and your husband and your daughters are experiencing this. It sounds incredibly painful.
And the only bit that you haven't spoken about and we don't know about is where you sit, how difficult this is for you, that they're all missing this part of the family that you are not, in fact, at least biologically, a part of, whether it's a big loss for you or not, and how difficult it is to be with people who are having a really difficult time is hard. So support for you. But also it's like these losses come up with each time. There's like, if there's a birthday, then there's Christmas. These are the moments that probably it's worth bearing in mind that these are times that this is going to raise its head again.
Yes, like where their absence feels very present.
Yeah.
So, like these sort of unsat seats at the table kind of thing. And exactly as Soph says, like, we don't know whether you've ever had a relationship with these other children of his. And I imagine that it must feel quite discombobulating to have these sort of like shadows that your partner and his daughters are sort of grieving in a way, and you're in it, but you're not in it in the same way as they are. So as Soph says, I think like getting support for yourself would be a good idea. And thank you for the question.